All right, hey, welcome back to Working Class Customs YouTube channel, and welcome back once again to Stable B. Yeah, we're back at Stable B, and we're on the other side of the stable tonight. Here to tell you guys a little bit of background about the old HD here, you know, the Harley Davidson. Why I have in the first place, why we don't really talk about it too often, and why I think that it's really not a bad option for everyone to have, but also why I understand that not everyone has one. But maybe kind of take the stigma that's out there between a sport bike rider and a Harley rider, or sport bike cruiser, or crotch rocket and motorcycle. Get rid of that kind of stigma and say that, yeah, you can do both. And you can love doing both. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Hope you enjoy. Go ahead, click that like button, click the subscribe button down below, and then throw us some comments as you're watching, listening, whatever it might be. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know, please, if there's any Harley fans out in the audience, throw it up. I'm not trying to necessarily start a war here, but I think as long as we can all agree that it's not Indian, we're good to go. Thanks. So we'll start off with just a quick introduction on the bike itself. This is a 2001 Harley Davidson Sportster 1200C custom. I'm not sure exactly what the XL1200C. Yep, that's like the official, right? They don't really say Sportster back in the day when you were writing your model, but it's a Sportster 1200 custom. So custom gets you the forward controls, the big 19-inch wheel. It's been a minute. I should have looked at these things before, but I used to just have them off the top of my head. Yep, forward controls, 19-inch wheel, chrome, 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 chrome. Should I say chrome one more time? Because it was chrome, that's what it was about. And then also the rear wheel, which I'll give you guys a closer look at a little later. That was part of the custom. It's my least favorite part of the entire motorcycle. I've been trying to change it ever since I got it, but I just haven't ever wanted to put that much money into this bike. There's that. But yeah, the rear wheel, and those the other things that I mentioned. I mentioned there was chrome, custom. See, the C we always thought was for custom, but it was actually just for chrome. They do love their chrome. But yeah, that's the story. That's what it is. It used to have 12-inch apes on it when I first bought it. We got rid of those and put on these almost drag bars, but zero rise. Everything else has been pretty much left alone besides lowering it a little bit in the back and relocating the license plate in the back and getting rid of the rear light. And I guess good old Working Class Customs kind of chopped the fender up back there. We'll give you a look at that. When I got this bike, I don't even remember what year it was. It was a little while ago. I was looking for something cheap. I was looking for something that I could just cruise on, honestly. I wanted something that I wasn't gonna get in trouble on very easily anyway. I wanted something that felt cool, looked cool, sounded cool, and had certain friends that were pretty big into Harley Davidsons. You guys may or may not already know who that is. If not, just stick around on the YouTube channel, you'll find out real quick. That kind of definitely made some moves in my head that direction, but I've always loved the Sportster, specifically the Harley Davidson Sportster, because to me, it's one of the last motorcycles that is still just that, just a motorcycle. And then being Harley Davidson, it's made in America, it's kind of got those roots to it, all those things. I was like, if I'm gonna get a cruiser, I'm not gonna go get a Suzuki cruiser. I'm not gonna go get a Yamaha cruiser. I'm not gonna get a Triumph. A lot of those bikes are great. I don't really have too much against them, but for me, I was gonna get something that met the image that I had in my head, which was from all the old 80s movies of dudes on Harleys doing cool things across America. Sometimes not as cool things, but we won't touch on that. So that is why I got this. Like I said, 2001, I paid $2,800 for it. Don't quote me on that. It wasn't much. It definitely wasn't over $3,000. And it had no turn signals in the front, no speedometer, no brake lights for the rear. No brake lights for the front. If you press the rear, the lights would work. The brakes worked in the front, just no brake lights off the front. And the turn signals worked, you just had to individually hit it on and off and on and off. So there was just nothing to keep it blinking in there. So that is where we started. This is where we are now. And let's go ahead and get into why we went this direction. Let's see, so we covered the bike itself, we covered when I got the bike and what's kind of been done to the bike. I think what's left to talk about really is the actual introduction piece from my standpoint and why I even have a Harley Davidson in my garage, right? If you look around the rest of my garage, there's a lot of sport bikes. I talk about sport bikes a lot. I talk about dragging knee. I talk about going to the racetrack. I talk about MotoGP and all of those things. And none of those really like align with having a cruiser. Also, if you talk to my wife, her family, my family, most people would tell you that me being at a younger age, in my entire time growing up, it was all just sport bikes. Right? I used to be like, oh, Harleys, those are just potatoes. No one likes them. They sound stupid and all of these things. And then I got a little older and it was still kind of there, but not as much to hate. It was just like, you know what? I'm a sport bike guy. You know, you do whatever you want, but I'm a sport bike guy. That's what I'm going to do. And then I rode one and I started talking to some people and I started thinking about it. And I was like, you know, they do look cool. They sound different, but it's not a bad different. It's that nice V-twin, a low rumble, sound of a freight train kind of rolling through. And so I came to kind of become a Harley Davidson fan, if you will. And I'm not an expert by any means, but I will say that there's a different feeling riding down the road on this than there is on my Aprilia or even the Gixxer. Sport bikes, I'm kind of really close to being one of those people that says they're really only for the track. Not a full believer in that yet, because I still believe you can have fun on the street, on a bike, safely, on any bike. But if you do want to get the full experience of a sport bike, you do need to go to the racetrack. A cruiser bike, and specifically for me anyway, a Harley Davidson gives you a very different experience out on the street, whatever it might be. For me, it's kind of, I don't even know how to put it beyond just, it's an experience. It's more than just, I'm gonna go ride a motorcycle today. It's, I'm gonna go take the Harley out. We're gonna go cruising. I don't really have a destination in mind, but I'm not necessarily out there to cut up corners like crazy. I'm not out there to go set wicked fast lap times. I'm just out there to enjoy the surroundings and the road and the ride and just the overall experience. Usually for me, I'll throw some AC/DC on in the helmet, go find some roads where there aren't too many cars or anything like that, or even if there are, but it's still a motorcycle, you still want something where you don't have to deal with people too much. And I'll just go live it up. The great thing for me about a Sportster, and we'll get into this in a little bit more detail into this later, but over 60 miles an hour, even a Sportster 1200, ain't too happy. And you can talk to any of them, especially the older ones that are carburated. You get up over that 60 mile an hour mark, they're only 5 gears, you kind of just don't have it. I can tell you story after story of me trying to get this thing to go and it just doesn't enjoy it. But the nice thing about that is you're not worried about it. You know, you're not gonna go out and, as we talk about with the sport bikes all the time, you can be in prison in first gear. That doesn't happen on a Harley, especially not on an old Sportster 1200. That's the biggest reason, I think, for me, the visceral difference between the two bikes and the two styles and the two completely different experiences you get out on the road between a sport bike and a cruiser bike, specifically a Harley Davidson. So I think we kind of covered some of the why. I think what we need to cover now is how you get from where I was a single motorcycle owner. I had this 08 Gixxer 750 to I've got an 08 and 09, a 2019 Aprilia, this Harley Davidson. I have another motorcycle that you guys haven't seen yet, but might have seen some parts and pieces of lying around the garage. We may or may not get into that on the channel at a later date. We're still kind of sorting some things out there. And you know, bikes everywhere. How does that happen? To explain that, we kind of got to go back a little ways. Go back to, I bought the Gixxer around 2017, and 2 years later in 2019, I did my first track day. That was a great time. I went and did it. You know, I didn't even drag a knee, but whatever, it was fun. Came home and I was kind of like, I don't know if I'll do this again. That was cool, but it's not for me. Mostly, I'll tell you, I'll be honest, it was because I didn't do that well in my head. I didn't do that well at it. And so I didn't know if I was gonna go back and do it again. And then sometime later that year or the next year, I got pulled over on the Gixxer doing a speed that may or may not have been above the speed limit. Could also be related to my license plate not being the best visible. One of those two, maybe not. Let you decide. Had a very, good discussion with the officer that had pulled me over and ended something with, just don't ever let me catch you doing that again and you'll be, anyway, you guys know the rest of the story. No ticket, no charge, no nothing, but kind of started to change some things in my head and made me realize, what are you doing? Because as I said a minute or two ago, and as we've said multiple times, a sport bike, a super sport specifically, it is too easy to get in trouble out on the street. They're almost dumb. They're almost useless on the street. They're still fun, don't get me wrong. I love them. Most people that have them love them. But when it really comes down to it, there's not a whole lot you can do out there and still be within the legal range of riding a motorcycle. I started thinking about that and I was like, well, you know, let's go do another track day. Let's see how that goes. So I taped the Gixxer back up and I went and did another track day. And that year, I think I did 5 or 6 track days and the tape never came off the front of the Gixxer. And so that winter, I had extra tape on the Gixxer, not just on the headlights and taillights, but also keeping some of the fairings on. And I was like, I could either buy new fairings for the street or I can just convert this into a track bike. If it lasted 4 or 5 months without me ever riding it on the road, then what am I doing? I'll just convert it to a track bike. So that's what I did. And then throughout the winter, I didn't ride at all. I was like, I need another bike. I need something. Weighing my options and said, you know, I don't want to go out and just get in trouble again and have another track bike, but I want a motorcycle on the road. I want to go still enjoy cruising on a motorcycle on the weekends or riding to work here and there, whatever it might be. And so I looked at my options and I started looking around and I found this one and we drove about 3 hours to go get it, or look at it rather, looked at it, loved it. It was sweet, it was basic, it was simple, it was cheap. It was just a motorcycle. It was a Harley Davidson. It wasn't something I would get tired of on the speed wise. That's what they tell you. You get an 883 and you'll grow out of it eventually. So I wasn't too worried about that. I was actually, I'll tell you, being honest, from hearing everyone talking about that, I was afraid that I might need to get an 883 first anyway. And then I talked to someone who was actually legitimate with me and they're like, well, what are you riding before? It's like, it was a Gixxer 750. They're like, don't even bother thinking about getting an 883. Go straight to the 1200. You'll probably already be bored. Just stay over there. I'm glad I took that advice. Have ridden an 883. It didn't feel too much different. Like I said, the Sportsters just really aren't speed demons. They got a lot of like around town torque. That's great. They're fun. They look good. Like I said, they're small, they're lightweight, easy to handle, whatever it might be. They're not high speed demons, which is fine. Again, that's why I bought it. And so I picked this up and I said, this is gonna be my bike for the road. And it was for a long time. And it still is to a degree. I have another one now. That's a different story that we can get into later. That's the spot I filled. And I used to hate ape hangers. And then I rode a bike with ape hangers. And I will say, drop a comment if you've had this before, but I'm a small guy and this used to have 12-inch apes on it with a 4-inch riser. So about 16 inches. And I will tell you that they weren't uncomfortable, but again, that 60-mile-an-hour mark, you really start to turn into a parachute, especially when you're such a small guy and you got your arms all the way up here and you're going. There's no windshield, there's nothing to tuck behind, there's nothing. It was a different experience. That ride home was insane. I had never ridden anything like this for that long. So it was just super weird. Wasn't expecting it, but got used to it. Ended up loving the apes a lot. We swapped over to these because looking for a different look. Still looking for a little bit less chrome and more blacked out like the bars here. Eventually, we'll get there. We'll take our time. Yeah, that's just about the whole story. Like I was saying earlier, and like I'll probably say a lot, it's a different experience. Could all just be a mental game in my head. You go out on the street on a Gixxer or any sport bike that's Japanese and you're looking around, and for me it kind of felt like the odd one out, the loser. You know, like I don't have a gang, I'm just my own guy out there and not gonna fit in. But I can't tell you how many people complimented this thing on my way home, pulling into a couple different gas stations, because yeah, it's got a small tank. Everyone that walked by was like, man, that's a beautiful bike, man. And it wasn't anything super special. Hadn't just washed it or anything like that. Driving past other dudes on Harley Davidsons, it's a different feeling when you pass a dude on a Harley Davidson and you're also on a Harley Davidson and you throw down the wave. It's different. Can't tell you what it is. If you don't believe me, that's whatever. I know it sounds real corny and kind of cheesy, but it's different. And so I definitely enjoy that. There's times where I'm like, nope, I'm gonna take the Aprilia out. I need I need that acceleration. Or there's times where I'm like, I don't want to even see the street for a while. I just need the racetrack, which is me a lot of the time, because the racetrack is still my favorite place to ride, 100%. But then there's other times that I'm like, you know what? I need to go. I just want to go see nature. I want to go enjoy the ride. And this bike has been the perfect bike to do that. To finish things off with that, I think as a working class YouTube channel in general, we're here to tell you that it's definitely possible to live both lives, and we actually encourage it. I will also say that it goes both ways. I'm not just talking to sport bike boys saying, come on over to the Harley life. That's what I've done. But the other half of the YouTube channel, Mr. Cole, has pretty much gone the other way. And whatever reason you want to throw behind that, who knows? But truth is, he had Harleys. Now he's got Harleys and sport bikes. I had a sport bike, now I've got a sport bike and a Harley. We kind of came together, met in the middle, find out that we both love both of them. We both kind of have very similar views on that. So I just want to give you my rundown on that, introduce you to the Harley a little bit. You guys let me know again down in the comments if there's like any more Harley Davidson specific content that you're looking for, that you guys want to see, please let us know. We'll throw it up. We've got 2 Sportster 1200s and another one, a Harley golf cart maybe. I shouldn't mention that, but maybe. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So just let us know what you want to see. We can throw it out there. Just know that it doesn't matter which side of the family you're on. Again, as long as it's not Indian, kind of like we said. We love all rides, and you should too. Thanks for watching today.